Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to look at the origins of Sleeping Beauty. So, I'm going to be looking at the two tales that Disney would have loosely taken their original animation from. So you have the Brothers Grimm, and I cannot pronounce his name. He's the French guy, Charles Perrault. I can't pronounce his last name. So this is very similar to Cinderella, only in this case, the tales are actually decently different. Um, the Grimm's fairy tale is very simple and very short. You have a king and queen who long for a child. Eventually, a frog tells the queen she's going to have a baby. She has a baby, a little girl. They invite, I can't remember exactly how many, but there's a lot of wise women, not fairies, wise women. But no, there's 12. Sorry, mentally not, there's 12 because they do not have enough gold plates for the 13th. So she shows up after the 11th wise woman has given her gift. She curses her to die by breaking her finger on a spindle. The last fairy shows up. The last fairy comes out. She says she will prick her finger, but she will fall asleep rather than die, and fall asleep for 100 years. Times pass on the child. I think whether it's 15th. It's her 15th birthday when this is happened, specifically in the Grimm's fairy tale. The king and queen are away. King and queen are away. Why they would be away on her birthday, I do not know. Particularly knowing that this is foretold, because of course they've gotten rid of all the spindles and spinning wheels, which begs to differ how on earth they made fabric and yarn and all sorts of things, because you need spinning wheels. Nonetheless, the princess is wandering around, wanders up a tall tower, finds a woman spinning, pricks her finger, and falls asleep. The king and queen arrive home. The wise woman puts everybody to sleep and then covers the place with rose briars. And many princes try to break through and end up dying until 100 years passes. Another prince comes. It opens for him. He wakes up the princess. They lived happily ever after. That is the Grimm's fairy tale. That is the basics of it. The French fairy tale is a little bit different and a bit longer. So in this case, it is in fact fairies that they invite. It is 7, not 12. They forget the oldest one. They don't know. Everybody assumes she's either dead or enchanted. So when she arrives pissed off, they don't know what to do because they've made like specific gifts for these 7 that were invited. She again, during the dinner, a young fairy hears her whispering, decides to go hide because she worries what this woman is going to do. All the others give her various different gifts until the evil one says basically when you're 15 or 16, so it doesn't specify whether it's 15 or 16, she will prick her finger on a spindle and die. The other fairy comes out. She will fall asleep for 100 years. So, it transpires. The king and queen come home. She falls asleep. Apparently, she had met a woman in a tall tower who was spinning, who somehow, one, didn't know who she was, and two, never heard the king's decree. She falls down. They don't know what's going on. They know she's asleep. They try to wake her. Everybody tries to wake her up. The king arrives. King and queen arrive home. They know what's going on. She's moved to a fancy bed. And the fairy gets word, because she's away, from a dwarf wearing 107-league boots, which allows them to do 7 leagues in one step. She comes. She tells the king, yes, you did the right thing. You moved her to a fancy bed. She is now resting. She is asleep. And then she puts everybody except for the king and queen in the castle to sleep. And then with the king and queen have left, she creates a giant not necessarily rose briars, but kind of almost like an impenetrable forest around them. 100 years pass. A prince who's of that kingdom, not related, he does specify that he's not related, shows up, and here he sees the towers above the forest. And he asks everybody, and nobody really knows. There's different stories about orcs eating children and various different other things. Finally, an old man comes, says, it's been 50 years since my father told me this tale, and his father told it to him. But inside is a beautiful princess who has to sleep for 100 years, which has now been 100 years. So he goes, the forest parts for him, not his men. He walks into the courtyard, sees everybody, he realizes everybody's asleep, though they kind of look dead. He eventually finds the princess, kneels down. He does not kiss her. She wakes up because it's been 100 years. They declare their love for each other. And then they are married. And everybody else needs food because everybody else isn't in love and they need food. So the chief lady in waiting is like, dinner is served. So they eat. They are married. Then he leaves and goes home, leaving her there. And for 2 years, he goes back and forth. And they have 2 children, Aurora, and a daughter named Aurora, and a son named Day. So he doesn't want to tell his mother because apparently she's part ogress. And his father wouldn't have married her unless she had a bunch of money. So, eventually Dad dies. And he brings his wife and children home. And then he decides to go off warring in another country for the summer. And his mother is pissed off, and she sends the young queen and her children away to another castle. And then she comes to her chief cook and says, I'm going to eat Aurora today, who is 4. So the cook tries, can't. Instead, he hides her away with his wife and gives the queen a lamb. He does the same thing 7 days later with the son. Then she orders the queen. He's going to kill the queen. She's like, go ahead and do it. He's like, no, I can't do this. So he sends her away to hide with her children. But eventually the queen finds out. He is highly pissed off. Orders the young queen, both of her children, the chef, his wife, and their maid to come with their hands tied. Has a giant vat filled with various different dangerous creatures. He's going to throw them in. The king comes home and like, what the heck is going on? And then she dies herself. His mother jumps in and gets herself killed. And he grieves because she's his mother, but then lives happily ever after. So that is the French tale. So those are the 2 original tales of Sleeping Beauty. It's very obvious that Disney took a lot of interesting liberties. Again, they cut it down to 3 fairies. They use Briar Rose and Aurora, 2 names where nobody's named in either one of these tales. So, except for the children. The children are named Aurora and Day. The children are named, nobody else. So, the French story is much, very closely related to, I believe, I think it's the Italian tale, which is the sun, moon, and Talia. So Aurora means dawn, obviously, and day. So you have, and Talia is the name of the princess in this one, which is very, very similar. And again, though the queen isn't an ogress in that one, and the prince keeps her hidden, and I believe she's his wife. It's his wife who wants to eat the children and eat the mistress, in this case. And I do believe I think he sleeps in Sun, Moon, and Talia. He sleeps with her while and they're twins, and he sleeps with her while she's asleep. And then she has children, and she sucks. One of the babies sucks flax out of her finger. So it's more of a combination of both Snow White and Sleeping Beauty. So, but the tales I just said, this is the Sleeping Beauty tales. So it's very, very interesting. Again, Disney we will review the original film. That will be Friday. So we will get into that, but this is where Disney would have gotten it, though I think they took most of their tale from the Brothers Grimm. So, honestly, I find the French version far more interesting because, again, it's longer and he doesn't kiss her. And apparently it's guessed that she's been dreaming of him. So it's not necessarily love at first sight, at least not for her. It's for him, but, it's better than Snow White where the prince kisses a corpse. She's not dead. He knows she's not dead in this one. It's very obvious that she is still breathing. So, as opposed to Snow White, who was a corpse. Yeah, these things are weird. But nonetheless, if you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. I will be doing Sleeping Beauty this month. Hopefully I will be actually getting into the Sleeping Beauty film. I will definitely be doing the ballet at the end of the month. And I probably will be reviewing Maleficent, which I have not seen. So, again, like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one. Thank you.